my lovely followers, viewers. I start from where I stopped in the first part of this very long documentary. So I immediately start. I was talking about at the end of the first part of this documentary, I was talking about the curses occurred to the cast of the movie of 1973, The Exorcist. So I keep on revealing you all the curses occurred not only to the actors, actresses, but also to the staff, to the team, to the technicians, and to all the people involved in the shooting of the film The Exorcist. I ended the first part talking about the curses that hit Linda Blair, but I will return on Linda Blair later because there is much more to say. Now, I go on. The first victim of the curse of The Exorcist was the actress Vasiliki Maliaros, who was playing the part of the old mother of Father Damien Karras. And also in the movie she dies in an hospice because Father Karras hadn't money enough to do a great assistance to his mother, so he decides to make her enter in an hospice, hoping to waiting for finding a better place. Instead, after a few days, the mother of Father Damien Karras dies. This was the fiction, but in real life, the actress Vasiliki Maliaros died for natural causes before the release of the movie at the cinema. Many of you can tell me this is a coincidence because the actress Vasiliki Maliaros, even if she was healthy and in good conditions, of course, she couldn't imagine to die before the release at the cinema of the movie The Exorcist. But she was 89, so she was pretty old. So many scientists and so on can tell me, of course, when you are 89, you're not very, very young, you can die from an heart attack and for natural causes for the age. But the second victim wasn't 89. The second victim was the actor Jack McGowan, who played the role of the famous Bark Dennings in the movie, in which he played the role of the director of the movie in which the mother of Reagan is playing. And there is also in the movie a close relationship between Bark Dennings and Ellen Burstyn, playing the role of Reagan's mother. In fact, just Reagan, in a scene, she asks her mother, do you like Bark? You can invite him at my birthday party. So there was a special friendship between the mother of Reagan and Bark Dennings. He was her boyfriend, and in the movie he dies when the babysitter asks Bark to look after Reagan for about an hour, because she had some things to do. And so Bark, who was the boyfriend of the mother, accepts to go into Reagan's bedroom to look after her. And when the mother of Reagan returns home, she discovers that Bark has just died because he rushed from the window of the bedroom of Reagan down the dizzying stairway under, of course, the window of Reagan, and police finds the body with the head completely turned. Of course, it was a fiction, but the actor who played the role of Bark Dennings, Jack McGowan, died soon at the end of the shooting of the movie The Exorcist, and he was only 54. He wasn't like Vasiliki Maliaros, that even she was in healthy conditions, was 89. He was only 54 years old, and the cause of death was a flu. Now, I can tell you that there was a flu epidemic, but he was 54, he was healthy, in very good conditions, and he died soon after the end of shooting The Exorcist. It's very strange, but it's not all. During the shooting of The Exorcist, died other people who were hit by very, very serious moanings. For example, Max von Sydow, the actor who plays the role of Father Merrin, his very loved brother died during the shooting of the Exorcist. So Max von Sydow kept on playing in that movie with a very great thorn in his heart, because his very loved brother died, and his brother was young. Then the night guardian of the set of The Exorcist died in mysterious circumstances. Natural causes, but the night guardian was pretty young. Suddenly he died. Then, unfortunately, the newborn baby of the cameraman assistant died suddenly. The newborn of the assistant of the cameraman died suddenly. It sounds like a real curse. Then, even one of the technicians in the movie suddenly died. And also Linda Blair's grandfather died. Always during the shooting of the movie. So, you can tell me, Linda Blair's grandfather could be old. He was old, but not very old, because Linda Blair was only 14 years old when she played the role of Regan. So, and all these disgraces and deaths during the shooting of the movie. It's incredible. The grandfather of Linda Blair could be a bit old, but not very old. But the newborn of the cameraman's assistant, the night young guardian of the set, one of the young technicians involved in the shooting of the video, of the movie. And these were the disgraces, the curses during the shooting of the movie, because other strange episodes and disgraces hit almost all the cast, directors, screenwriters, people who were working in the makeup into the movie, and so on. The cars kept on following them. These were the disgraces in the cast. And remember the fire that broke out only after 2 days after the beginning of the shooting of The Exorcist. And also the actor who was playing the part of Father Karras had a very serious accident during the movie. Then I go deep into it later. So, was shot in Georgetown University near Washington, D.C. But the editing of the movie happened in New York, and the editing of The Exorcist happened by accident at number 666 of the Fifth Avenue of New York. Such a lovely combination. So, during the shooting of The Exorcist, the telephone and set that is very often framed in the movie, I thought that it was just because the director William Friedkin wanted to shoot and take with his huge camera the many particulars of all the rooms of that damn house. So when I noticed often that old telephone that at the time I had in my house too, because I was born in the 80s, and I had a very similar telephone in my old house, that it was like the telephone in 1973 in the set of The Exorcist. That telephone wasn't framed so often randomly, no, because many people who worked in the set of The Exorcist, many actors and actresses, and also the director himself, William Friedkin, noticed that the telephone and set lifted by itself and then went violently down. And this supernatural event, because it wasn't a joke by some technicians, they were there completely stunned by the view of this telephone and set lifted by itself and then went violently down. This is the reason why the director decided to shoot many scenes with near that telephone, and the telephone and set was framed several times during the movie. This is the reason why. At that point, the director William Friedkin was absolutely convinced that that house set was cursed and that there was a demonic spirit or a demon, a demonic presence that was eating brutally the cast and all the people involved behind the scenes, like technicians, hairdressers, and so on. So he asked he asked, you must know that during the shooting of The Exorcist, there was a real priest near to the director and to the screenwriter, and he was a priest, a real priest, who was doing a counselor for the movie. So William Friedkin was really terrified by those unexplainable events, supernatural events. They didn't have a scientific explanation. So he asked, please, to this real priest who was the counselor in the movie, to do an exorcism, a true exorcism, on all the cast, all the actors, all the actresses, technicians, makeup artists, and so on, and even to do an exorcism in the house. But that priest refused. He said that he could bless all the actresses and actors with a Catholic Christian blessing, but he refused to do an exorcism on the cast, people who were working in the movie, and also an exorcism in that house. And for many real exorcists was a great mistake, because William Friedkin was a Jew, and many actors and actresses weren't only Christian, were atheists, people of other religions, but they were so scared because they were very perplexed if keep on playing in the set of The Exorcist, or if to get away, because many people were dying. They were hit by disgraces, so they weren't so convinced in keep on playing in The Exorcist. And but that priest was unmovable. He blessed with holy water all the cast, technicians, people behind the scenes, the director William Friedkin, the screenwriter William Blatty, and also the house, but nothing more. As I told you in the first part of the documentary, the movie The Exorcist, released in 1973, was referring to the novel written by William Blatty, The Exorcist, released in 1971, referring to a true exorcism happened in 1949 in Maryland to a little guy who was 14 years old. As I told you in the first part, the priest exorcist completely liberated the little guy, who hadn't any problems for all his life anymore. But he also became an important worker and figure in NAS in NASA. He was a scientist. He had a brilliant and successful career, and he died when he was old in 2020. As I told you in the first part, I promised to tell you the real name. That now I can tell you the real name of the guy whose alias was Roland Doe. His real name was Robbie Mannheim. As I told you before, the Exorcist priest liberated the little guy from the demon in Maryland, begged his friend William Peter Blatty not to reveal the identity of the family and of the guy. So William Blatty was a very, very good person. So he decided, in fact, in his novel The Exorcist, to change the identity and even the sex of the person who was possessed, and he wasn't a little boy of 13, 14 years, but a girl who was 12 years old. Now I tell you that in all the past years I read and heard so many rumors about the director William Friedkin, as I suppose you heard too. For example, I read in newspapers, in the internet, and in all the medias that William Friedkin, after the release of The Exorcist, he went to a mental hospital and he spent all his life in a mental hospital. Fake news, absolutely. First of all, we don't even know if William Friedkin has ever been in a mental hospital, because there are not real proofs. Because here I have official documents, and there is not a mention of a lunatic asylum, a mental hospital in which William Friedkin was supposed to spend many years. No. It can be completely a fake news, or at maximum William Friedkin could have had a quick breakdown and can be in a mental hospital for a few days, for maximum a month or 20 days. But of course, he didn't spend his life in a mental hospital, because William Friedkin had 4 wives. Yeah. And the second wife he had was very famous, was Leslie Annie Down, a very famous actress that I know very well, because you won't believe in me, I am a fan of Beautiful. Yes, the bold and beautiful soap. And don't get so much surprised, because I want to remind you that in the Addams Family movie of 1991, Gomez is telling Morticia, "Stop! Now I'm watching Beautiful." I'm watching Beautiful is in Europe, but I know that in the United States the real name of the soap is The Bold and the Beautiful. I'm a fan of Beautiful. So I remember Leslie Annie Down. She was the mythical Jackie Maroney. Remember? Okay. William Friedkin had 4 wives. He won Oscar, Golden Globes, many prizes. Even at the end of his career, he was great, and he was, in the few years of his life, he was really not only one of the greatest directors of history, because I am a fan of William Friedkin. So when I got the news that he died the 7th of August 2023, and today is the 19th of September 2023, so he died a month and a half ago, I cried, because he was one of my favorite directors ever. So I know well that William Friedkin, when he died, I read on internet William Friedkin died in a mental hospital at the age of 87 years old. What the fuck? Absolutely no! William Friedkin died the 7th of August 2023 in his magnificent house in Los Angeles, in the quarter of Bel Air. And all the people who know Los Angeles and all the people who live in Los Angeles, you know that in the quarter of Bel Air, there in that quarter, not the rich people live there, but the super millionaire have the possibility to live there and to have a huge house, residence with pools and much more. It's the more expensive quarter of Los Angeles. So, fortunately, William Friedkin didn't die in a mental hospital, completely out of his head, completely mad. So, be careful when you read news on internet. You hear them on TV, on the radios, because many of them are fake news. So, before spreading around, for example, William Friedkin has just died in a mental hospital, do researches, because he died in his magnificent house in Los Angeles, in the quarter of Bel Air, at 87. So, William Friedkin was a genius, but of course he was mad. Not mad to be closed in his life in a mental hospital, but he was pretty crazy. I tell you this, during the shooting of The Exorcist, he liked to shoot to the actors without, of course, eating them. Because when you read these documents, you read without eating any actor. Of course, because if he eats and caused the death of an actor, an exorcist, he was accused to be a murderer. So of course, unfortunately, he shot with his guns without eating actors or people of the staff. But the most dangerous fact is that William Friedkin shot during the shooting of the movie without suddenly. He was shooting in the cast suddenly and without warning the actors. So, and he was shooting with true guns, with true bullets. So, William Friedkin, of course, had a perfect aim with his guns. It was dangerous. So, there have been many curses in this set, but also some blessings, I think. And in the official documents, there is written, William Friedkin shot without suddenly and without warning the actors, the staff, because above all the actors and actresses, because he wanted to cause real reactions of terror in the faces of the actors and actresses. In fact, I want to tell you this curiosity. At the end of the movie, when Father Damien Karras takes strong Linda Blair by her throat and screams, "Son of a bitch, take me, take me!" In the moment in which the demon exits from the body of Regan and enters Father Karras' body, and you see his terrified eyes with eye contact lenses color yellow, that completely terrified expression wasn't because it was playing very well the part of Father Karras, taking in that moment the demon from Regan, but because he heard a very great gunshot by William Friedkin. So when he has this face expression, in that moment he was hearing a gunshot. So it's a curiosity, and William Friedkin was really exaggerating, above all because I reveal you details and informations that few people really told you. And there is also another cruel treatment towards the actor who was playing the part of Father Dyer. Because I want to reveal you, and when I told you before, there wasn't only a priest as counselor in the cast of The Exorcist, but Father Dyer was a real priest. He was a Jesuit father, and he accepted to play the role of Father Dyer in The Exorcist. But he was a real priest, not only for fiction. And William Friedkin wasn't happy, satisfied, and convinced about the way of playing of William J. O'Malley played the role of Father Dyer. So, before the last scene, and the last scene is when Father Karras sacrifices his life for the little Regan, because when he senses that he had taken the demon from Linda Blair, immediately before the demon exits from his body and returns to the little girl, he crashes the window of Regan's bedroom, and then he rushes all that dizzying stairway down until the end, in the same place where Bark Dennings was found dead. Many people misunderstood the movie, as William Friedkin himself stated, because many people think that when Father Karras rushes that dizzying staircase down, when he arrives at the bottom of that endless dizzying stairway, he dies immediately. It's not so. This is the reason why William Friedkin wanted William J. O'Malley, who was playing Father Dyer, to have an expression in his face to show the viewers all his affliction. All his affliction, his pain, deep pain for the loss of his loved mate. And because of, in the movie, Father Karras, when his mother dies in that hospice, he has a spiritual crisis, and he almost lost his faith in God. So during the movie, he says even to the policeman Kinderman, I can give you a suggestion as a psychiatrist, because he wasn't only a priest, but he was also a psychiatrist. So Father Karras decided not to be a priest anymore and to dedicate his future career to be a psychiatrist. Instead, when he meets the Exorcist, Father Merrin, and he faces Linda Blair completely possessed by the demon. In the beginning, he's very skeptical. In fact, Regan's mother tells Father Karras, I visited all the specialists and psychiatrists of all over the world, and now you tell me that my daughter has psychiatric problems and is not possessed by something supernatural. Then, of course, Father Karras will regain his faith at the point to give his own life for the love of God and for the Christian love for the little girl Regan. He decides to die in place of the little innocent 14 years old Regan. But at the end of that dizzying stairway, he wasn't still dead. So, when Father Dyer arrives at the end of the stairway, he notices that Father Karras is still alive. So, he recites, God forgives your quick loss of faith. Do you believe in God? Yes. And then he gives him an absolution so that he can go to heaven. And then Father Karras dies. This tragic, dramatic scene, and it's also a touching scene, William Friedkin wanted the best from William J. O'Malley. So, before playing that scene, he asked William, come into my room. And there he started to insult him brutally. He insulted him brutally. And also slapped his face. So the actor William J. O'Malley, who was a real priest playing the role of Father Dyer, he felt so humiliated that in that scene with Father Karras dying, he was really crying, he was really desperate, but not for the scene that it was just a fiction, but because all those horrible insults he received by William Friedkin. Another stunning curiosity before passing to make you see a really rare videos, really rare original videos that are very rare and many people never seen. So I can show you the real accident happened to Ellen Burstyn when she almost broke her spine, but not like you see that scene in the movie, but behind the scene was incredibly recorded that scene, the scene of the accident, so you can judge by yourself if it was an accident, a human mistake, or something else. So I will reveal you all the incredible curiosities and creepy events shot, and I have the original rare video of that time. So I will make you see something creepy, full of mystery and incredible, and also curiosities you will never imagine, even about special effects and much more. So now I tell you this curiosity about Jason Miller. Jason Miller never played in a movie, and the movie The Exorcist was the first time he appeared on the screen of a cinema, and he was a missing priest. Jason Miller, now I will shock you, because Jason Miller was a very handsome actor. So when you see his face, handsome man. No. Jason Miller wasn't an actor, and he received a Jesuit Catholic education, and he wanted, his dream was to become a priest. So he entered in seminary to become a priest. But then it happened, like the character he was playing in the movie The Exorcist, to have a spiritual crisis. And he also had almost lost his faith. So he left the seminary, and he wrote a theatrical drama in which he won a Pulitzer Prize. It's a very prestigious prize. But then, usually, he was he was working as milkman. When William Friedkin, maybe he had already noticed the theatrical drama written by Jason Miller, but it wasn't in that moment that he decided to ask him to play the role of Father Karras without knowing his abilities in playing, because he wasn't an actor at all. And he met Jason Miller as a milkman, and Jason Miller didn't recognize William Friedkin, maybe because he was wearing a hat. And William Friedkin told Jason Miller, "I know that you have a spiritual crisis. You are losing your faith." And Jason Miller got stunned. How did he know it? And William Friedkin answered, "I sensed it looking into your eyes, and I asked you to play in my cinema movie the Exorcist, playing the role of Father Karras, and Jason Miller immediately accepted. The first movie with Jason Miller. So, Jason Miller could win an Oscar. And William Friedkin wasn't really satisfied about the way of playing of his actors. Almost all the actors of the movie, even Linda Blair. Linda Blair was a model and played some roles when she was a little girl, but wasn't an actress very famous like the first choices by the production, like they thought about Brooke Shields and so on. So this was another curiosity. Now let's start to I take you in something you can even imagine. I will make you see the most important videos that you must see to judge many things and to appreciate better the masterpiece of the movie The Exorcist, and also descend into hell with me in those videos. But there are also some curiosities. I tell you that William Friedkin wondered if many viewers were stupid or not, because many people stopped him on the streets and asked him, how does Regan get the demon in The Exorcist? William Friedkin was really surprised, and he answered, when Linda Blair, Regan, plays, there is that little demon statue, but not only. The moment of possession is when Linda Blair starts to play with a Ouija board found in the garage. So she starts to play with the famous Captain Howdy, but Captain Howdy was the demon. That's all. It was simple to understand. And the very, very great famous soundtrack, suggestive soundtrack of The Exorcist is Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. And the complete version, the extended version, the version of The Exorcist was banned almost until 1999, because in 1998 it was released in DVD a middle version between the cut version of The Exorcist of 1973 and shorter, well shorter than the version released in 2000. But I have that DVD because I have always been a maniac about the movie The Exorcist. So when I had known that a middle version of The Exorcist was released, I immediately bought the DVD, and when it was not possible, I bought it beyond Italy. So I found this movie. I can tell you that the movie was still cut, and of course it wasn't the extended version of The Exorcist of 2000, but it was a bit longer, maybe 2 hours and 4 minutes, because the cut version was 2 hours and 2 minutes and the extended version was 2 hours and 12 minutes. So it was about 2 hours and 4 minutes. And there was also in DVD, in the package, included the making of 75 minutes with the title The Fear of God, with some cut scenes and some curiosities and so on. There is another curiosity, and then we go to my personal computer to watch the videos I promised to you, that in the edition of 1998, the original final of the movie becomes a special content. Instead, the alternative and more extended final scene of the movie was chosen by William Friedkin as the original final scenes of the movie released in 2000. I can tell you that I completely agree with William Friedkin, because in the one that had to be the scene, the final scene, was just Father Dyer alone, walking on the street, looking back and giving a look at the dizzying stairway in which Father Karras lost his life. And so the end was darker, more melancholic, and also very anguished. I didn't like it very much too. So I agree in what the alternative final scenes became the final scenes of the movie of 2000, when there is the Lieutenant Kinderman, who always looks for someone who wants to watch the Othello at the cinema with him, because his wife doesn't want. And he always, in the movie, more times he asks, "Do you want? I have tickets for the Othello at the cinema." And Father Karras answers, "I've already watched it." So in the end he asks Father Dyer, "I have 2 tickets for the cinema. My wife doesn't want to come." "Which movie?" asks Father Dyer. And Lieutenant Kinderman answers, "The Othello, which way? I've already watched it." So the Kinderman got stunned again and asks Father Dyer, "Why don't we have a coffee together? Can I offer you a coffee?" "Of course," he answers. So they both go to a bar to have a coffee, a tea. So the final chosen final scenes gives a movie a more optimistic and pleasant view, instead of that very bitter final scene that had to be the original. So instead it finishes with an optimistic view to the future. And now no more time to waste. Are you ready for videos that only rare people had already seen? Very rare original videos. I don't waste other time. So, are you ready to watch the videos? Let's go! I forgot to tell you another important curiosity that I'm going to show you right now in the video. The actor, the Swedish actor Max von Sydow, played the part of Father Merrin, wasn't an old man at all. When you see the Exorcist played by Max von Sydow, you think that the Exorcist is an old man. It can be 80, 82. Instead, Max von Sydow was just a blonde man who was only 44 years old. So it's incredible to see the kind of makeup in 1973. And now let's go as promised. Here it is, Max von Sydow, only 44 years old.
To the Exorcist, it's amazing.
My mother used to talk about at the end of the day when Max would take his makeup off and be going down the hall and be all young and dapper and stuff with his blazer.
This is Linda Blair.
And you didn't know it was the same person. But that's an actor's dream, is to play all different ages, and he had his own relationship with Billy Friedkin, which I got to watch, but it was very more disciplined in certain ways, I think.
Incredible. Now, this is one of the most important scenes.
I will tell you about
this scene disturbed very much the viewers. In these scenes, you can see Paul Bateson was the killer of the cinema critic and suspected to be the serial killer of gay. And now, be careful, because this is the important scene of the angiography of Linda Blair, where for a second a cross appears on the forehead of Linda Blair, and it wasn't a special effect. So use your eye, you can glimpse it for a second.
I saw the first press preview, and up the aisle from the front comes a woman holding her hand to her
This
forehead.
is William Blatty.
Jesus. But what grossed her, shocked her, made her almost faint? The arteriogram. Anytime I am more or less forced to watch the entire film, and I know that needle is going here and blood's going to go, I look down, I look away. Oh, it's horrid. The horror that medical science is putting her through, far worse than the demon.
I'm speaking to the person inside of Reagan now.
In the scene with the shrimp,
So,
where Linda grabs him and he falls backwards.
So now I make you see other Curiosities, very, very important. Let's go. I find you the most important and interesting things that all the viewers and maniacs like me about The Exorcist want to see.
Register.
I simply did what I was told to do. Billy Friedkin absolutely directed every single bit of my performance.
It was a very light attitude on the set that day. It wasn't.
Now I make you see the accident happened to Ellen Burstyn behind the scenes, so you can judge.
A child does not know what masturbation is. A child does not understand a lot of sexual conduct. With that said, now that people are going to finally be privy to understand how it was done and realize, no, I had no idea what it meant. I didn't understand. It is all mechanical. Again, that would prove the point of how I say Billy Friedkin orchestrated and directed everything.
The amazing part about Linda was when Billy would say action with something like that, all of a sudden she would go from that little girl to that serious actress. And that was the amazing part.
Be careful, this is the accident of Ellen Burstyn.
We didn't talk about the devil.
So you can
So
judge
the devil
by
was
yourself.
fictitious to me. It was the same thing as the Wolfman, as any of the monster films. It did not exist. That's what Billy found, was that innocence. I didn't know what the devil was. If I'd grown up Catholic, I don't think you could have cast a Catholic child in the part.
So that was the real accident happened during the shooting of The Exorcist. Personally, it seems to me, and I can be wrong, of course, because everybody can do an opinion by their own, maybe the rope was pulled too much strong, but of course it was an accident, of course. And then I make you see this important information I give you in the first episode of this very long documentary. When I told you that William Friedkin wanted to see the real breaths of the actors and Linda Blair, so he made install 4 powerful air conditioners in Regan's bedroom, and the temperature dropped down under more than 0. It is said, of course, 30 grades under 0, but they took even 40 grades under 0. So I make you see the scenes, everything. I go on and I make you see
when I set out to create the illusion of all this stuff happening, I had no idea whether it would ever work or whether an audience would laugh. And on many occasions, an audience would laugh at some of the most extreme effects because laughter is a reaction to something that you can't really let in or tolerate. Very often, an audience reaction is, you know, that doesn't really bother me. I could laugh that
At
off.
least,
I think the vomit has such power because it comes as such a surprise.
and these are other scenes.
All of a sudden, this vial would come out.
I was talking that the two priests, at least the two actors, were wearing thermal suits under their priest clothes. Instead, Linda Blair suffered much more because she was wearing only a nightgown. So I think that in this movie there were many curses, but also many blessings, because me wearing only a nightgown with 30 grades under zero, I would be quite sure dead. And now I make you see. Wait a moment. I arrive at the point in which
Really let in or tolerate. Very often, an audience reaction is, you know, that doesn't really bother me.
now
I
I
can laugh
make
that off.
you see.
I think the vomit has such power.
Ecco,
What is it?
here it is. Now I arrive at the point of the situation. Wait a minute, and I arrive immediately.
Meticulous about the ritual.
Here we are.
Just shooting the exorcism in general was difficult. It was very time consuming because on a technical level we had to run the air conditioners while we were setting up and preparing. The only reason we wanted the room to be cold was because we had to see the breath. And the catch-22 there is we had to refrigerate the room with air conditioners in order to see the breath. Well, you see the breath usually with moist cold, and air conditioners take the moisture out of the cold also. Because it was dehumidifying at the same time, we had to get it to like 20 below zero before you'd even see the breath.
Be silent!
The actors would come in and to perform.
So you can see the breath.
And they only have a short window to perform because once
was
they start,
freezing.
the room would warm up pretty quickly. And we'd have to then chill it, you know, everybody go out and they'd have to cool it down again. So it was a long, tedious process to get that done. It's such a tribute to them as artists and actors that they could just turn it on and turn it off. And
Now
get
you can
into it.
see Linda Blair, even many grades under zero, be able to joke about something that
And me, I got
could
long
be.
underwear and a nightgown. Lucky me.
This is what I wanted to tell you, that even Linda Blair said the same thing. I thought.
As artists and actors, that they could just turn it on and turn it off and get into it.
The men all had their the old ski suits that look a lot like kind of like a space uniform, you know, and they're walking around kind of like that. And me, I got, you know, long underwear and a nightgown. Lucky me.
Very lucky, but because she could get pneumonia and even risk to die. But I think this was a miracle.
There were no computer-generated images in which you could portray the special effects of The Exorcist. They all had to be done mechanically. And so when the two priests are reciting the liturgy and they
William
see
Friedkin is
Linda's
explaining.
body levitate, they're seeing that right in front of them. We had to create everything mechanically on camera, and the actors could see that.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
And it was pretty frightening to look at. And you could get the idea in the scene of what the audience was seeing.
So now
And
I want to make you see in other important scenes full of curiosities. Now wait a second and you can see something you don't expect. I arrive.
We're fly people.
Wait a minute.
Anything that's dark against light, you'll see. Anything light against dark, you'll see. But when it's broke, the scenic artist went out and hand-painted each wire. And when I saw it blend into the background, I knew it was right.
Makeup room, so I'm constantly looking over.
There is something you don't expect. Do you remember when Linda Blair during the movie she's possessed, so she turns completely her head of 360 degrees. That scene, maybe almost all the people, included me, I thought that there were special effects. Instead, a surprise, something shocking. This video will reveal you that there weren't special effects about it, but something incredible, and even more incredible, because we were only in 1973. They created a doll, a real doll,
obviously we all know it's not real.
identical to Linda Blair.
To amazing filmmaking.
Everybody over the years always asks, how did she turn her head around? Well, here you're able to see it. It's fun to see that. And I remember doing it when we were working on it, how everybody was involved with like opening this dummy's head up and the wires and being able to move the eyes and the mouth and all the different things independently. I mean, Marcel Verca-2, the special effects man, and Dick, the makeup artist, just did an incredible job with everything.
The dummy sat up in the makeup room, so I'm constantly looking over at my face. I didn't enjoy the experience of being in its presence, let's say.
Of our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with the Father.
We were all set to shoot the scene when she does the 360 degrees, and I said, I think we missed one thing, guys. And what's that? I said, breath. You can't see any breath. And Marcel went, oh my God, he's right, you know. And so Marcel Verca-2, the special effects man, he found a way to do it, and quickly. And so we were able to shoot the scene. But things like that, it was such a collaborative effort there too. And it's nice to show that collaborative effort, just to show how everything was done. You see that bed rocking, and to see how that works, and all the prop men that were back there just cranking away on a simple mechanical thing to make this supernatural thing happen.
Damien!
Amen.
I said, Billy, we got to cut this. The 360 degrees won't go.
It's amazing.
I mean, that is iconic. That shot. The audience went Google over that. They screamed. I still don't know why.
She was a doll,
Maybe it's
remote
because so
controlled.
shockingly unexpected.
I think no matter how hard through the years I've tried to tell people, I really don't think they'll ever understand the process and what it took to get to the character, everything that I had to withstand and then act. I cannot wear contacts. So they had to put numbing drops in. So every day I had numbing drops, and then the contacts were put in. The white ones that go over the whole eye were new. They were actually more comfortable. Couldn't see anything. Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever understood how hard it was for my end.
So, as you see, also Linda Blair herself told you that every day she had to have before water drops for her eyes, and then wearing colored eye contact lenses, and it was a bit a torture. And I want to remind you that Linda Blair was only 14 years old. So she was really incredible. And now I make you see something, another curiosity. I immediately arrive because there is something you should know. And so the screenwriter William Blatty reveals you that it's also The Exorcist. It is also what now is going to tell you.
Is she gonna die?
You are tremendously engaged with the characters in The Exorcist. That helps it to work very well, but moreover, the pace of development is a slow one. It builds and it builds before anything really apparently paranormal occurs, with the most horrific, save for the end.
Son of a bitch!
Ray Bradbury once wrote that it's actually a beautiful love story.
God damn you! Take me! Take me!
Here's a priest who gives his own life voluntarily to save the life of a little girl he's never met. He never met Reagan McNeil, only the demon.
So now I want to make you see another important scene, also to make you understand, also to make you see something also about
Which parallel?
That I was proud to be.
Here I am, don't worry.
I don't know how and why.
Now I'm going to show you how the famous cutscene of the spider walking downstairs, the famous spider walking scene that was cut in 1973. Even it wasn't an impressionable scene to censor. How it was made. And it was made not only by a stunt double of Linda Blair, but also this stunt double was an incredible athlete, but she couldn't reach the last stair without falling, so in the end she is pulled with a rope. But I want to make you see the whole scene, because there was William Friedkin and William Blatty had a very great discussion, because when William Blatty saw the cuts by William Friedkin in scenes like I'll make you see the whole dialogue between Father Karras and Father Marin, in that dialogue there is the great meaning of all the movie. So how you can delete scenes with the first meaning of all the movie, and then it was restored at the original and version. Now let's immediately watch these incredible videos.
The original cut of The Exorcist, Bill Blatty and I disagreed about. I cut a number of scenes out, more than 12 minutes worth, from the original version of the film, for two reasons. One, I showed it to a man who was an executive at Warner Brothers then, called John Calley. He was sort of head of production. And I showed the work print of the film to him, and he had what I thought were some very good suggestions. A couple of scenes, he said, I don't think you need that. I think that's overstatement. When he first said this to me, I respected John Kelly, but I thought, well, who the hell is he? I mean, I've lived with this film now for well over a year. I won an Academy Award. What is he telling me how to change my film? But I went home after this meeting and I started to think about everything that he had said. And I went into the cutting room the next day and I tried all of the changes and cuts that he suggested, and I thought it was a better film. And so I went out with it that way. And for years, Blatty was angry about that, and for a long time he didn't even speak to me. But whenever he did speak to me, he would say, Billy, you've cut the heart and soul out of the movie. And I would say, Bill, you're a sore winner. The movie's out there. It's a success. The success keeps growing. It's the gift that keeps on giving, as far as you're concerned. And you're telling me that I was wrong? And then many years went by, from the year 1974, actually, when the film came out, and the year 2000. And Blatty and I had resumed our very close friendship, and he called me one day, and he said, Bill, would you consider looking at the footage that you cut? I'll look at it with you. We'll look at it on an editing machine at Warner Brothers, where they have it stored. And will you just look at it and see if you could restore it and put it into a new version of the film? And I did this as a favor to Bill, because I love Blatty and I respect him, and he gave me the best piece of material I've ever received. And I said, okay, and we went into Warner Brothers. I looked at all these cut scenes. I looked at the shot of the girl walking backwards down the stairs, which we couldn't use at the time because the cable showed, because it was so bright.
When we did that spider sequence originally, it was so tricky. You had to have a pretty well-coordinated person to do that. And of course, putting the person on wires helped, because you couldn't do it without the wires. It didn't make the movie because of the wires. And so in the 2000 release, they were easily able to take those wires out with CGI. And so Billy decided to use it in the re-release.
on the set was a speech between Max von Sydow and Jason Miller on the staircase between bouts of the ritual.
So 32 takes 7 minutes.
And the speech was, why this girl? What is the sense of the point of that? And to paraphrase Marin's answer, it was, the girl is not the target. The target is you, me, every person in this household. And the point is to make us despair, to make us feel that humanity is ultimately vile, ugly, bestial, putrescent. So much so that if there were a God, he couldn't possibly love us. And to me, that speech was so important because, on a practical level, it would permit a member of the audience to not hate himself for enjoying some of the more horrific moments. It would explain things like the green vomit spewing.
And here we are, then I tell you what really happened.
That was the first
The disgusting joke made by William Friedkin to Jason Miller. Now I make you hear the original dialogue between, of course, the two priests, because it's the meaning, the great meaning of the movie.
To reject the possibility that God could love us.
I really put it back for him because I feel and felt that I owe him a lot. He wrote this thing, he created it, gave it to me. And as I got older, I become somewhat less arrogant, and I felt that he should have the version of the film come out that he wanted.
Sure.
And I even did other things with the film. Like I added some subliminal cuts. And I added at the end of the final scene, which I cut out. The scene with
So now I tell you, of course, the meaning of this masterpiece, The Exorcist, is a very touching dialogue between the two priests, because Father Karras asks why all these terrible things to which is the sense, and of course Father Marin answers, she's not the target, and reveals that the devil makes so much bad things, horrible things to people, in order that people reject the idea that God love us. So it was really amazing. I wanted to talk about the scene of the vomit directly to Jason Miller's face. You can think that that scene was in then of course a scene included. Instead, William Friedkin told Jason Miller that the vomit, and I reveal you that the vomit was made with a soap, first of all of peas, but also of other vegetables. The vomit should eat the thorax of Jason Miller. Instead, William Friedkin did this disgusting but also funny joke to Jason Miller, and without warning him, the vomit was intentionally intentionally spit at the face of Jason Miller. So the expression of extreme disgust, it's pure authentic, because Jason Miller was really didn't know the joke William Friedkin was had prepared to him to make him even with a face more disgusted. And now I make you see another important scene, because I think that you must see this scene, because there are I want to remind you this one. Now I make you immediately see. So this last video I make you see for today is, maybe it's the last one. I want you to remind something. I told you that the in loving memory of Vasiliki Maliaros, this actress was in good conditions, not like in the movie, and she died before the release of the movie at the cinema. So it's also in loving memory of Vasiliki Maliaros.